who is here tonight, coming from the University of Georgia, where he's the assistant professor of Arabic and Islamic studies. Dr.Godlas obtained his PhD from University of California at Berkeley under the guidance of Professor Hamid Algar. His dissertation was on the Arayas al-Bayan, which is a mystical Quran exegesis of Rusbahan al-Baqli. And he is a very prolific researcher, contributing in many ways to the understanding and scholarly aspects of Islam, which include tafsir, that is explaining Quranic language and thought, aspects of Sufism, hadith, and psychotherapeutic dimensions of Islam. And so I would like to have him give a talk right now.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. 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 I would first, before I begin, I would like to thank Dr. Mirza, Mr. Biabani for bringing us together here, and also I would like to thank Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for bringing us here today. I also would like to apologize for omitting any of the papers in the proceedings of last year's Milad conference that we put together. Inshallah, we hope to include all of these papers in a future edition. I would also like to thank Mr. Ahmad Giri and his brother Samad for pulling together a miracle in the publication of last year's proceedings in the short time with which we gave them. I would also like to thank my wife for designing the cover. My talk today is about the journey of the soul, the transformation of the Nafs in the Sufi Quranic commentary of Rusbahan al-Baqli called the Ara'as al-Bayan. In the 12th century, Rusbahan al-Baqli, who was an Iranian Sunni Sufi, wrote in Arabic and Persian a number of works dealing with Sufism, among which was a massive commentary on the Quran in Arabic called The Brides of Elucidation, the Ara'is al-Bayan. Baqli, a Shafi'i, included in the Ara'is al-Bayan not only his Quranic commentary, but also he quoted at length from two of the most significant Sufi Quranic commentaries written previous to him, the commentaries of Sulami and Qushayri. In addition, from Sulami, Baqli transmitted numerous early Sufi Quranic commentaries from 2nd, 3rd, and 4th century Sufis such as Tustari, Jafar as-Sadiq, Junaid, and Abu Bakr al-Wasati, radiallahu anhum. Baqli's commentary sheds light on what Sayyid Hossein Nasr called the many levels of subjective reality or consciousness, the many envelopes of self that leading to the ultimate self, which is the infinite and eternal, which is none other than the transcendental reality beyond. In particular, from an analysis of the Ara'is, we can derive the understanding of the self and the Nafs and its transformation that Rusbahan al-Baqli held, and also that was held by Sufi Quran commentators prior to the 6th century of the Hijrah. I will now discuss Baqli's understanding of the self by looking first at the origin of the Nafs and its place in the plan of creation. Second, looking at the loss of awareness of its true nature. Third, by looking at its journey of return, both to awareness of itself as a mirror of Allah and to awareness, a journey of awareness of Allah. I will highlight three necessary components of the journey of regaining one's lost knowledge of Allah, these being tremendous discipline, unconditional surrender to God, taslim, and divine mercy, rahmah. Subsequently, I'll speak about how Buckley's Quran commentary deals with the various levels of consciousness that Sufis traditionally pass through on their return journey to knowledge of Allah, the stages of the Nafs that Sufism traditionally calls the Nafs al-Amara, the commanding self, the Nafs al-Lawama, the blaming self, and the Nafs al-Mutma'inna, the self at peace. One problem that we face in understanding Buckley's view of the purpose of life is that superficially there seems to be a contradiction between the overall Sufi view of the purpose of life on the one hand and the Quran's view on the other. In the Sufi view in general, the purpose of creation is a return journey of the self to knowledge and love of God. The purpose of creation is so that human beings can know and love God. The Quran, on the other hand, states that the purpose of the creation is to worship God. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ, as Allah Ta'ala has stated in Al-Dhariyat, Surah Al-Dhariyat. I only created the jinn and humankind so that they could worship me. Although the Sufi viewpoint might appear to be at odds with the Quran certainly does not oppose the idea that the purpose of creation is to know and love God. Moreover, there are even traditions of the Prophet ﷺ and sayings of companions that affirm that the phrase "to worship me" in the Quran may be understood as "to know me." At the core of the Sufi view of the purpose of life was the well-known but controversial Hadith Qudsi, where Allah Ta'ala speaks in the first person, "Kuntu kanzan makhfiyan fa'ahbabtu ana urafa fakhalaqtu al-khalq likay u'raf." I was a hidden treasure and I loved that I be known, so I created creation in order to be known. Although the earliest I have seen this hadith is in 5th century Hijri, 11th century CE works, in particular the work of the Hanbali Sufi and patron saint of Herat, Khaja Abdullah Ansari. By the 7th century of the Hijra, it can be seen throughout Sufi texts. Furthermore, the Quran asserts, and I quote, "Indeed we belong to God and return to God. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un." And also, as we will discuss later on, the Quran says, "Ya ayyatuha an-nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiya fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati." O self at peace, return to your sustainer, he content with you and you with him. In contrast, the traditional Sufi discussions of the return journey of the soul to know and love God presupposes a journey that can and should be accomplished during one's lifetime. This apparent contradiction between Sufism and the Quran was resolved in early, non-specifically Sufi Sunni Quranic commentary. In other words, in general Sunni